Thank you everyone for joining us. I see as more people are coming in. I am Emily Loya. I'm the District Director for Congresswoman Escobar here in her district office here in El Paso. Still working from home, but we're live from our living rooms across El Paso. Thank you guys for joining us. We're really excited to have some local and regional experts on today's virtual tax information system hosted by the Office of Congresswoman Escobar. She will not be able to join us today, but we're happy to provide this service to our constituents in our community. We have 4 presenters today to share with each of you. And thanks for your attendance, and there will be time for questions. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Si hablas español y quieres escuchar en español, hay un botón ahí abajo que dice interpretation, es como un mundo, and you can choose the interpretation button there, and you can hear from Ana Nunez, our Spanish translator, and you can enjoy the session in Spanish, so en español allí. And it's great to see your face, Evelyn, as you joined on. We were having a few technical moments, so thanks for your patience. So we have 4 presenters today, and they're all on screen with me. So I want to introduce you to Miss Evelyn Dyson Lee, our senior stakeholder from the IRS. Give us a wave. And then also the from the Taxpayer Advocates Office, Ms. Grace Torres, here locally in El Paso, but also connected to the IRS. And then we have Ms. Dinah Kilgore, Executive Director from the El Paso Central Appraisal District. And we also have Ms. MJ Calixto, who is part of our district office team, and it handles casework, especially with the IRS and Social Security and other areas too, but she'll be sharing about how our office supports in casework. So today's session there'll be presentation and there'll be some screen sharing, but then you're also welcome to put your questions in the Q&A. It's also at the bottom of your screen if you're on Zoom. If you're joining us via Facebook, you can put your questions on Facebook, and we have a team member monitoring your questions there too, and we will try to include them in today's live session. So without any further ado, I am going to introduce Ms. Dyson Lee and give us a second, and I'll share my screen so we can use her slides as well. So over to you, Evelyn.
Thank you. Okay, well, hi, everyone. I think I'm the one having the technology problem, so hopefully you can hear me. And I don't see a slide, but I think I'll go ahead and get started. Oh, there's something coming in. Today, we're just going to give you a few filing season updates. We're in the middle of the filing season, and we have some information that we'll share. So today, I would like to just cover a few items. And the first thing is electronic filing. We'll go back to that first slide. Thank you. The first thing is electronic filing, and IRS would like to encourage everyone to electronically file their tax return. This is one of the safest and quickest method. It's also the quickest way that if you're due a refund, that you will receive your refund. Also, when you file electronically, we would like to encourage you to utilize direct deposit. Again, this is one of the fastest ways for you to get your refund and get one of the safest ways to get your refund, so that you don't have to wait for it in the mail. You don't have to worry about if it's going to get lost. So everything just goes a little bit quicker and a little bit smoother. Also, I want to talk to you a little bit about IRS Free File. Now, IRS and all of this information can be obtained on irs.gov. For those who, let me look up, okay, there's a number. For those whose adjusted gross income is less than $72,000, you qualify to utilize IRS Free File. You can access this on irs.gov and file your tax return electronically. Now, what happens if your adjusted gross income is more than $72,000? You can free file as well on irs.gov. We have fillable forms that can be filed electronically. So there are actually 2 ways that you can file your income tax returns at no cost. I don't know if I said that, but this is a free way to file. So want to encourage you that it's safe, it's secure, and it's free. And also something I didn't mention about direct deposit, you can actually have your deposit split up, and you can have it deposited into 2 bank accounts. You can even have it deposited to 3 bank accounts. So encourage you again to electronically file. Utilize IRS Free File, 2 ways to do that, and you can access that on irs.gov, and also encourage you to direct deposit. One thing about direct deposit, you can get that refund sooner. In many cases, it's 21 days. Now, with that said, I want to offer that just like your tax return is different for each taxpayer, your refund can be different, the time that it takes to receive your refund. There can be some factors that come into play in the amount of time that you receive your refund that may prevent you from actually getting it within 21 days. Maybe there's an identity theft issue. Maybe there are some errors, and I'll talk about that. So you want to make sure what you're filing is as complete as possible and has the correct information, because that can slow down your refund as well. Also take in consideration your financial institutions. That can take a little time to post to your bank account. Also remember financial institutions, holidays and weekends. So that can add a few days. So that's just some quick information about that. Now, what about economic impact payments and the recovery rebate? Now, talking about the recovery rebate, you've for 2020, everyone, if you're eligible, has received maybe 2 economic impact payments, which many people know these as stimulus payments. These came out, we call it economic impact payment 1, the first payment, and the second payment. And what these payments actually are were advance payments to the recovery rebate credit. If you were eligible and you received your full amount, when you file your 2021 tax return, you're good. You're good. You received your full amount, and the software will guide you through that, and everything is good. Now, what happens if you were qualified and you did not receive the full amount that you were due with Economic Impact 1 or Economic Impact 2? Well, now during the filing season 2021, on your 2020 return, you will claim your recovery rebate credit. And this is where you reconcile all of your numbers. There's a reconciliation sheet, and you will put the information, guide it through this form, and that is your way to receive any additional amounts that you qualify in the form of a recovery rebate credit. Now, what's important about this is you do want to include the correct amount of economic impact payments. For those payments, once those payments were issued, IRS sent out a form 1444A for the first payment and a 1444B for the second payment. This information highlights the exact information you received. So what happens if you didn't know, for some reason, you didn't keep that form or you don't have it? Well, you can access your information on irs.gov by accessing setting up your online account. And I think we have some information to put in the chat if you want to lift those links up and go to irs.gov, or just in the search engine, put in online account. And your online account will give you the amount of your stimulus payments or economic impact payments. That's one thing that can be a reason that your refund may be delayed if the exact amount was not included in there. So let's talk about the Earned Income Tax Credit and Additional Child Tax Credit. what's different this year about the Earned Income Tax Credit is, one, some individuals who normally may not have claimed the Earned Income Tax Credit may now be eligible for that amount based on what has been going on. You may have a marital status change, number of people you claim, or financial. COVID, the COVID crisis has changed situations with many people. So what's different this year about Earned Income Tax Credit is you can compute your income using your 2019 income. If you find for 2020 your income is low, or maybe you had no wages in 2020, maybe you just received unemployment income, well, you're able to look at your 2019 income and utilize that to claim your Earned Income Tax Credit. So that's a big change. And also that same change applies to the additional child tax credit, where you can use the prior year's income. So you want to use the year that's going to give you the best benefit. So let's go to the next slide. And I'm probably taking a lot of time. Okay, here we go. I talked about claiming the recovery rebate credit, and I talked about knowing the amounts of your first and your second economic impact payments. So I think we can go to the third slide, Emily. Wow, I got ahead of myself just talking about the Earned Income Tax Credit. This is what helps low to moderate income workers. This helps you get a tax break. Again, on here, it's saying if your earned income was higher in 2019 than 2020, for the first time for this year, you're able to use the higher amount. Whatever gives you the greatest benefit, that's what is good for you to use. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, here's some good information to change and new information. For the first time, the Form 1040 and the Form 1040 SR is available in Spanish. So you can complete your income tax return in Spanish language. Also, we have a new Schedule LEP, and this allows you to choose how you would like to communicate with the Internal Revenue Service. So if you look at that Schedule LEP, and if you want communication that you receive from the Internal Revenue Service to come to you, for example, in Spanish language, you can use this form to communicate with IRS in Spanish language. Also, Publication 17. It is now available in 7 languages, including Spanish, and Publication 1, which is your rights as a taxpayer, is now available in 20 languages. So we have lots of pages on irs.gov, lots of information in Spanish, and these are brand new, and definitely would like to mention that to you to help you during this filing season. So what else do we have? Okay, let's talk about the filing deadline. The filing deadline for 2021, that I just want to highlight, this is all for the 2021 filing season. For most individuals, this filing deadline is May 17th for this year. However, for Texas, for persons living in Texas, it includes Louisiana and Arkansas as well. We have June 15th to file our taxes. It's been extended due to the winter storm to June 15th, even if you can't pay the full tax owed. Now, we like to say, if you're ready and you have your information, the sooner the better. Go ahead and file your tax return. And also, extension to file is just that. It's an extension to file, but it is not an extension to pay your full amount of taxes or your additional taxes owed. And if you owe, pay as much as you can. Now, I'm going to talk about payment options, so we don't want you to get overly stressed, but pay what you can. And one of the reasons for that is to avoid any penalties or interest, or avoid that as much as you can, because they really add up quickly. So just to reiterate, because it's a little confusing for people, residents and people in Texas have an extended filing date to June 15th. But if anyone who does not reside in Texas, including Oklahoma and Louisiana, your taxes are due within the next 2 weeks, and that is May 17th. And that this extension is only good for this filing season. Now, what happens if you owe taxes? IRS offers plenty of payment options. You may get a temporary extension to pay. You can go online and set up a payment plan. Maybe you qualify for an offer in compromise. You may want a tax professional to help you with that. Maybe if you have you can have a delay, you can have the amount delayed. If right now your financial situation is you're not in a really good financial situation, IRS can kind of put that on hold. So we offer plenty of payment options that most people can qualify. You should be able to find something that meets your situation. So we encourage you, there's a link right there. We may be putting some links in the chat to look at your payment options if you owe. And if you owe, pay as much as you can, as soon as you can. And of course, if June 15th still is not time for you to kind of get it all together and get your taxes filed, if you need more time, you can get an automatic extension. But this extension is not an extension to pay. I may have confused that a little earlier, but an extension to file is not an extension to pay. Your full tax amount that is due and should be paid should be done by June 15th. That deadline is for individuals as well as businesses. Okay, let's see what else we have. Am I at the end? Okay, well, the great thing today, sorry, I have a counterpart who's here, and go ahead, Grace, and take it away.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually, thank you so much, Evelyn. And we did have a couple of really good questions that were really directly related to your stuff. So I think it just makes more sense to answer them as we go. So I'm gonna read those out, and some of them you may have covered, but just for completeness to make sure that they get answered. So Mr. John Romero, he asked, if you list a different amount of the recovery rebate on your tax return, how long is it taking the IRS to process the return for the taxpayer? Like, is that something that's making it take more than 21 days average?
Look, I wish I could give you an exact time, but I really can't. And we have our taxpayer advocate here. She's going to give you some information. They have a lot of data. I am not able to give you an exact, I can't say an additional week or an additional 2 weeks. I wish I can. COVID is just, it's a lot going on. And I don't know if Grace, you want to add to that, but right now we're not really able to give you an exact time frame. But Grace, you might want to add on to that. I don't know.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. There's a lot of returns that are being held up because of that reason. The taxpayer may have received a certain amount of the economic impact payment, and when they file their 2020 return, they list that a different amount, or they list that they didn't receive it. So the numbers do not match. So it goes into this system of the IRS called the errors resolution status. And somebody has to actually physically look at what's wrong and determine the amount of the refund, what it should be, and then release the correct amount of refund. So there's millions of returns that are in that situation right now. So we've been receiving a lot of phone calls. We're not actually opening cases for that because we can't really request the IRS to do anything. It's just the manpower, the resources for the IRS to be able to get to those returns. But we've been seeing 10 to 12 weeks on some of them, but some are taking longer. So we can't really give you an exact date if that's the actual reason, that it's being held. There's the other reason is because of their earned income credit, like Evelyn discussed. That is something that was a law changed where they would allow in the middle of a filing season for the taxpayer to use their 2019 income if that was going to benefit them versus the 2020 income, so they can get their earned income tax credit and other refundable credits. Well, the IRS software wasn't equipped to be able to handle that, so it's stuck in that error resolution status as well. So someone physically has to look at that to determine that is correct and the refund can be released. So there's literally millions of returns that are in that situation, and I apologize that that might be one of the reasons that yours is there, and it's just going to take a matter of time. I tell everyone to please be patient, to keep checking back, to give it time, because we don't have a definite answer on when you're going to be able to get that refund. I apologize.
Thank you, Grace.
Grace.
Yes.
And Grace, that's one thing, I think I lost my video again. That's one thing I also like to stress when filing, and if a refund is due, that, don't make any purchases or undertake any expenses banking on your refund to come in like 21 days. Wait until you get that in hand. So we like to encourage everyone, wait until you get that refund. Don't make any purchases, based on, okay, I know it's going to arrive on 21 days, because each tax return is a little different. And you just heard Grace, thank you so much, talk about some of the circumstances that are happening now. I'm sorry, Grace, I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, that's a good point, and in a lot of the cases that we see, we're an independent agency within the IRS, and we're completely free of charge. Our mission is to, make sure the taxpayer rights are always observed, and help them through the process. The taxpayers have, the right to be informed, quality service, pay just what's owed, challenge the IRS's position, like in an audit, appeal it, whether it's an exam or a collection situation. They have the right to finality, they have the right to privacy, they have the right to confidentiality, and they have the right to hire someone to represent them. So, our focus is making sure all of those rights are protected at all times. And if you need to refer a case to us, if it meets our criteria, usually we request for you to fill out a Form 911, and we'll provide you the information of where that can be sent if necessary. Okay, next slide, please.
And I did see, I see this deadline here, the June 15th deadline. There was an extension for all returns, the 1065 and the 1120, all of the individual and business returns do fall under the extension. And we have, I don't know if that's dropped in, maybe I can get it dropped in, but we have guidance for those impacted that gives you the specific details. So if we don't get it now, we can send that out later, whichever way.
I'll drop them in the chat when I'm presenting it. Well, it's kind of challenging to drop them in the chat, but once Grace finishes, I'll do that. Thanks. I didn't realize I couldn't do both of those. But we've got some other great questions in the Q&A, but let's have Grace continue. And then if you see any in the Q&A, Evelyn, you can also type in answers too. If you want to handle them. Okay.
That'll be great.
Thank you. Go ahead, Grace.
Okay, thank you. There's just some criteria that we have to be able to open up a case, and usually it's when a taxpayers experience economic hardship, and if there is a way that we're able to help them to provide immediate relief, you're facing some type of, adverse action against them, like a collection action, or they're trying to get their refund, they can't get it. We do have rules that we have to follow in order to help them, and all of this information is being provided to you as well by the Congressional Office. It's publications that we give out at outreach events. So, we're going to give our phone number as well and our contact information. So if you have additional questions on how to get us to help you, we'll be happy to help you with that later. So some of the criteria, and you can go to the next slide, please. And this is just a publication that we went ahead and put on there. You have trouble with the IRS, you don't know what to do, and know where to turn, and the Taxpayer Advocate is here for you to help you. There is a national number that's listed on one of the publications that's listed there, which you'll receive as well, and it's also listed at the end of this presentation as well, that 1-877-77 4778 number that you can call. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Right, and then there's just just additional things. We're here to listen to you. We're here to help you. We're here to assist you in navigating through your situation with the IRS as long as it meets our criteria. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is what we call the Taxpayer Roadmap, the National Taxpayer Advocate that we had, Nina Olson, prior to the new one, who's Erin Collins now. She created this for the taxpayers to be able to navigate through the system. So you have that as well as one of the handouts, and what it does, it shows you, okay, you file a return, and say you have a refund due, what's going to happen if it goes through all the systems and there's no trouble, it's going to get returned. And if you go through that, it'll give you, an idea. If you have a balance due, it goes through the collection process and your different rights. If they send you a notice in demand, you can actually file an appeal, that kind of thing. As far as exam as well, if they decide to audit your return, you have appeal rights. So if depending on what the scenario is, if you go through that roadmap, it gives you some good information. Okay, and you can go to the next slide. And there's our contact information for the office. We have an email address. It's taz.tx.elpaso@irs.gov. And of course, that national line, which someone usually answers that phone number, which you'll get a live person, 877-77-4778. And then our local intake line, we check messages off that number, 915-834-6512. So I know that there's some other questions. Was there any that I could answer?
Definitely. Let's see. Well, this might be for Evelyn, or it might be for you, Grace. Somebody was asking about the economic impact forms, which ones they were to file. They were asking if it was the 1440A for payment 1, 1444B for payment 2, are those the correct forms for economic impact? I think Evelyn answered this. She said yes. Okay, good. That was hers. And the filing date, just covering these verbally too. The filing date for people in Texas to pay is both for filing and for payment is June 15th. So that was answered by Evelyn. That's a yes. All those different types of tax returns are covered. Our open questions still showing, that's covered. That one's been done, that we clarified that. And then there was a question about the IRS workforce getting back to 100%. I don't know if anybody wants to respond to that.
Yeah, well, when all this started back in March, a lot of the service centers closed, so they weren't processing returns that were paper returns. And they started bringing back people slowly, but because of COVID, people getting sick, they're kind of at a skeleton crew. They've been bringing back people little by little. They're trying to find people that can be able to work from home with laptops, but a lot of stuff, opening the mail, processing paper returns, all that requires a person. So we're still not at 100%. There is an evacuation order in place through September 30th. I don't know if that's going to be rescinded or extended. So at this point, the IRS is not at 100%. So that's part of why there's a lot of delays.
Definitely understand those challenges. Thank you for sharing. Well, thanks. We will continue to take questions. So if you have additional questions, put them in the Q&A. But in light of time, we're also going to pass now to Ms. Dinah Kilgore from the El Paso Central Appraisal District. Not a federal issue, but definitely an important one for El Paso taxpayers. And I'm sure she's been extra busy these days. So the floor is yours, Ms. Kilgore.
Okay, thank you. I don't have a presentation. I'm going to kind of give an idea of what's going on. Not just here in El Paso, but in Texas, and not just Texas, but throughout the country. But before I say that, our doors are open. We have people in our building, have had people in our building since last year, April. So come see us. We closed April a year ago to get our building all set up so that we could handle face-to-face with taxpayers. We're not under the federal like IRS is, where they had to close down. And so we are available. Come see us. We will answer your questions and we will work with you. Now, what's happening in the country and in Texas and definitely in El Paso is COVID did not affect the sales of homes. It actually accelerated the sales of homes. You had sawmills that shut down because they were anticipating a decrease in home building and they didn't want to have a large surplus. And then you had, like Grace had said, you had people that were coming to work in construction crews and sawmills and what have you. And because one would get sick with COVID, it would shut down the whole site, it would shut down the construction site and possibly several. So as of January 1, the state of Texas requires that all appraisal districts, and every county in Texas has an appraisal district. So you have 254 counties. We have 253 appraisal districts. 2 of them are consolidated. And so we all have to do the same thing. What we do is not individually decided by the local appraisal district. It is decided by state law. State legislatures put this in place, and by comptroller rule. So the law is, as of January 1, whatever the market is, we're at 100% of market in the state of Texas that we have to appraise. If we do not appraise at that, then when the property value study happens, the state comptrollers comes in and does their value study, and we don't meet that confidence interval, which is 95% of market, then there's penalties that are applied to school district funding. So this is a must that we have to do. The supply of homes, because of these issues, is very low. A healthy supply of new homes is around 5 or 6 months worth of inventory of new homes. In El Paso, we're less than a month's supply of new homes. In Austin, they're not even a day's worth of supply of new homes. So because of materials going up, because of the supply being very low, the demand is still very high. The demand is a healthy demand for homes. So what has happened? Existing home sales are skyrocketing in a very healthy seller's market. Unfortunately for buyers, it's a little harder to find something. Interest rates are lower. I think in 2020, we saw some of the lowest interest rates we have ever seen for financing. Financing is a little more readily available. Finance companies, banks, lending firms have monies available to lend. But there's no supply of homes. So what's happening is you're getting a little bit of a bidding war going on. You're getting a little bit of I'm going to put in my offer, but somebody else put in an offer that's 20,000 more than what I offered. Here in El Paso County, overall, we're about 17% higher than what we were in the county overall for all single families, for all properties, I should say, for all commercial properties and everything. Single families are about 13% overall. The one thing about Texas is we have exemptions. I always tell people, file your exemptions, check your notices. Does it show you have an HS for homestead? Does it show you have an OV 65 for over 65 or a VA for some form of a veteran's exemption? Make sure you have your exemptions. If you're entitled to them, we want you to get them. Don't pay somebody to come and do that for you. We do that for free. Notify us, contact us, come into our office. We'll make sure you get those exemptions. If you qualified last year and didn't get it, we can give it to you for last year. You possibly get a refund if you'd already paid your taxes. So make sure you've got those exemptions. So that to me, that's very important. Look at your notice when you get your notice in the mail. If you feel like that market value, you could not sell your home for that. A lot of people will say, well, yeah, I know I can sell my home for that. In fact, I sell it for it higher, but I don't have to pay my taxes. Well, appraisal districts have nothing to do with the tax rates or the applying of the tax rates or the tax bills. Those are all done by your local taxing entities, your municipalities, your city, your counties, your school districts. They set their rates. So what happens in a timeline is we do research the entire year. So in 2020, we were looking at all the sales, a lot of sales information. January 1, we go by January 1. So we start running our audits, our edits, our ratio studies. We test them, we retest them, and then we send out notices. We want people to protest if they feel like they have something that they need to tell us. We do mass appraisal. We look at a neighborhood as a whole neighborhood. So we may not know that you need some, you have some very big damage in your home. You have some foundation problems. We won't know that. So this is the time that you need to file your protest. You need to file that, again, just like our IRS, there's deadlines. So you've got to file your protest by May 17th this year, or 30 days from the date of your notice, whichever one is the later one. We're going to give you the later date. So if you just received a notice last week, then you've got 30 days from that notice and not the May 17th. Don't miss out on that deadline. If you're not sure what you want to do, go ahead and file that protest. Then do your research, talk to the realtors, look at homes that are selling around you, get some estimates to repair your damage if you have damage. If you find that everything is okay and there isn't anything you can do, then you just don't have to show up for your hearing, or you can call and cancel it. I would rather somebody cancel and we have a large no-show rate than somebody miss out on a deadline that really wants to protest. So file that deadline, guys. Look at that. Now, state of Texas, if this is your residential homestead, it is your homestead and you have it designated as your homestead, you have your exemption, you have your little HS on your notice. The law in the state of Texas right now is that your market value will go up on your home because the market is going up. But what you paid last year, you will only pay 10% higher this year when your tax bill goes out. So you have a market value on your notice and you have an assessed value on your notice. So it will be 10%. An easy way to explain that is if last year you had a value of $100,000 on your home and that's what you paid on, this year the market is really big, so you have $150,000 on your home. You find you can't protest it, that is what it is. It's actually maybe a little bit lower. You will only pay on $110,000, only 10% higher than what you paid the year before. Now, what will happen is the next year, if the market stays stable, then you will pay on 10% higher than what you paid on the 110. So you'll pay on $121,000 value. You're still not paying on the $150,000 value. One thing the appraisal district will be doing is we will be reappraising all properties every year for the next 3 or 4 years to follow the market. If the market goes down, believe it or not, people don't believe it, but we will lower the value of the home. By law, we have to put it at market. So if the market's high, low, or there's been no changes, that's what you're going to see on your notice. Again, mass appraisal, something individual, you need to let us know. So after the protest season, then the taxing entities will get together. They're going to have their rate hearings. They will post when they're going to have rate hearings. I think a lot of them are still doing virtual meetings, council members and county commissioners and school boards. Some of them are still doing virtual, but they will have virtual meetings to discuss the rates. And that's another opportunity for property owners to actually talk to elected officials in these positions about the tax rate, because that's what's applied to your market value that you pay on. So that's kind of, then we start all over again. So that's kind of what, in a nutshell, the timeline and what's going on this year. Very, very low supply of homes and a very healthy, strong demand. People ask me, why is that? Gosh, I wish all of us that are in the business wish we knew. You know, we were all expecting a very slow 2021, but the 2020 market, I've talked to multiple realtors who said they have been so busy in 2020. They've sold more homes so far in 2020 than they did in 2019. I think a lot of it has to do with lowest interest rates that we've had in a long time in 2020. I also think it has to do with, because of low interest rates, you have folks that can now afford a little bit bigger home, maybe a newer home, bigger lot, bigger yard, and pay the same mortgage rate, pay the same mortgage. So you see them upgrading. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I think people that were sequestered, because I think, to me, that's like quarantine, sequestered in an apartment with several kids and dogs and husbands and wives, and realized they needed a little more space. They needed yards for their families to be in. And that may be a factor. And we're seeing this, folks, throughout the country. If you get online and you look in CNN or MSNBC or any of those, Texas A&M has a real estate section under tamu.edu, and they've got several articles about how this is happening throughout a very, very healthy sellers market. Buyers are qualifying, but they're having trouble finding homes. We have some folks in our office that finally saved up enough to get their first home and have decided to wait, because every time they went out and found one that was of a decent home for them and their daughters, they were outbid right away. And it was gone. They saw it in the morning, and by the afternoon it was gone. You're having people that are wanting to move from your larger urban areas like California. I think Austin is having a lot of people that are moving down from New York. And the reason being, so many people are now working from home. There's an option. You can work at the office or you can work from home. So they're trying to find an area that they can live in that's a little bit nicer. Now you think of people from California that are used to paying $600,000 for a home, then get the same home here for $250,000. So you're seeing that happen. You're hearing people that are saying they've been looking for a property to buy in El Paso for months and haven't been able to find one. So it is a very unique situation. Unfortunately, last year when COVID hit, we were trying to figure out how we were going to have hearings, because if a property owner requests a face-to-face hearing, we have to give it to them. So even though we have other options like phone-in hearings, online protesting, we still had to have that option. So when we visited with the governor's office, we were told this is all set by state law and only state legislatures can change this. So it is what it is, and we have to deal with it. Now, I do know that there's several bills. I can tell you right, I don't know what the status is, but there are several bills right now in the state of Texas that will lower that 10% cap to 5% if it gets passed. So you would only pay 5% more instead of 10% more. There are bills to grant further exemptions for our senior citizens and our disabled. So there are some bills looking at freezing right now your school tax if you're over 65, or if you have a disability and you qualified and have that exemption, your school tax is frozen at whatever rate it was the year you applied. So they're looking at freezing other entities' rates. So those are things that are going through legislature. What will happen with them, we'll just have to wait and see. So that's a nutshell. I'm available for questions. I'm sure there's a lot of people. I love Zoom for one purpose. You can throw all the tomatoes and eggs you want. It's not going to hurt me. But let me answer any questions, and I'll be happy to help you out in any way I can.
There's a few really specific ones in the chat, Dinah, that you might want to answer in the Q&A section. And then we'll try to do any others verbally for any of our presenters. I just want to give at least a couple of minutes for MJ to talk about casework from our office as well, so people are aware of those services. So over to MJ.
Thank you so much, Emily, and thank you so much to all of the panelists who provided this very valuable information to constituents. Not that doesn't only help the constituents, but that does help our office as well, so we can also relay the message as caseworkers or whoever, answers, our interns that answer the phones, they have that information as well. But really quick, because I know we're a little short on time and so we can answer as many questions. Our office is able to assist constituents with federal agencies. So any federal agency that you have an issue with, not necessarily an issue with, but if you haven't received a response or you would like a status update of any application you file with that federal agency, my coworker, Mr. Benito Torres, and myself are able to assist you with that. So any federal agency from Veteran Affairs to like IRS, Social Security, USPS, immigration applications, just things like that. We are more than happy to help you the best way we can. One of the ways that you can reach out to our office is through the Congresswoman's website at escobar.house.gov. If you go to your website, you'll be on the main page. And if you scroll down, you would be able to, you would find constituent services. And there is an option there that states help with a federal agency. You can input your information there and we will reach out to you as soon as possible. So I just wanted to let you all know that we do offer those services for constituents. And if you have any further questions, I can also put, you can call our phone number, 915-541-1400. Also reach out via the website, or I can put my email address on the chat and refer you, or if it's something that to do with my type of casework, I'll definitely help you out or refer you to someone that can help you out as well. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, MJ. And we do have about 9 minutes left in the hour, so we're going to also let you know if you're watching us via Facebook, we are fielding questions via Facebook and we'll include those. We had one from our Facebook earlier that I want to make sure we recognize. We had Beth from our Facebook just said that her son filed in January and still had no refund yet. I mean, I think you addressed this earlier, but for, Evelyn, but for some folks that might have joined us midway, can you just give some information there or some comment?
Okay, and Grace did a good job. We're still recovering from COVID. I also would wonder if she went to which year was this? Which year?
This was for her, I guess, the 2020 taxes, the way I understand it, but he's filed in January,
okay.
Like when it first opened. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I probably didn't mention, just wondering, we have an excellent tool, Where's My Refund? You can access that off of irs.gov, and it will give you a status of if your return is still in processing or what's going on. Grace did a great job talking about some of the challenges that we're having. Maybe the refund, the EIP amounts were incorrect. Maybe it has to do with EITC, identity theft, errors on the return. So some of these items can delay processing of the refund, and it may take longer than 21 days. But I will encourage her to go to Where's My Refund to get a status update of what is going on.
Thank you very much, Evelyn.
Mm-hmm.
And related, it could be you. Oh, Grace. Go ahead, Grace.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to add, there's sometimes situations that we do see quite often in our office where they file the return and all of their wages are not being reported by the employer to Social Security. So we have, the wage verification integrity unit that will stop the return. So those cases we usually build, and we ask the taxpayer to please provide us with a letter from the employer to verify they worked there and what they earned, the year-to-date wages, the withholding, the employer ID number for the employer, and a contact number for the employer. So when we send that to the IRS, they can verify that with the employer, and their refund can be released. So those are the cases that we usually end up working, things like that. So that can happen as well. So if they get a letter from the IRS saying, the wages don't match, they'll send them a letter, then they should contact us so we can assist them on getting that release, because not all the employers submit their W-2s timely. So the Social Security sends them to the IRS, and if it doesn't match our system, IRS is going to hold it.
Understood. Thank you. We have a participant who's saying, how can she get her tax returns for a past year? She struggled and was just for 2017. I don't know if you need any follow-up that we can type to her as well if you need more information.
Grace, I don't know if you were going to say anything. I would encourage her to go to irs.gov and put in transcripts, and it will give you the steps that she can take to request those transcripts.
Correct. And they also have a form, is it 4506, Evelyn, I believe? They can, if they want the actual return?
Yes, 4506T, and that information will be on there that she can complete to request the transcript of that return. And I'm not quite sure how many years the online account goes back. I'll check it while you go ahead and maybe come back with that.
No problem. Thank you. And then I know, Ms. Kilgore, you answered some questions in typing in the chat, but if you'd like to just verbalize any of those, you don't have to read them completely, but just some of the comments and some of the questions you had that you'd like to share.
I guess one of the questions was, if I have a house somewhere else, can I still have a homestead here if it's in another state? If you have like a vacation home in Cloudcroft or Rio Doso or someplace like that, yeah, you can still have your homestead here, but it has to be your principal occupied residence here in El Paso, Texas. You can't have two. You can't have one here and one in Austin. You can only have one, but you can have a vacation home somewhere or another home in another state. Maybe you work back and forth, but you can only get one homestead. If you're a veteran where you're 100%, possibly you have a residence in another state because it's better healthcare for you. Your principal residence is what indicates giving you your exemptions. So it's got to be your principal residence. It cannot be a rental. It cannot be something that you are here 6 months and you rent it for 6 months. No, even if you rent it for 1 month, it can't be that way. It has to be your principal occupied residence. I think that was the biggest one. And I'm trying to remember, I answered them and they went away. So
to go into a different tab, I'll look and see if there's anything else super, you know, that wasn't just super specific to one individual.
Yeah.
There was a question just anonymously about appraisals from like corporations, like if people, if corporations are also like having lawsuits about that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that we are, property owners are allowed to file a lawsuit. They're allowed to file a protest, and then if they don't like what the appraisal review board does, they're allowed to file a lawsuit. That is a big business here in Texas for property tax agents and tax attorneys to file lawsuits. Currently, we have over 700 lawsuits filed here in just in El Paso County. It's a lot of lawsuits. We normally would average about 200, 250. We're up to 700 now. So yes, they have the right to file a lawsuit, and then we have to go through mediation and hopefully discovery, and we can try to. There's no way I can go to court with 700 lawsuits, so we have to work with the agents and the attorneys to try to settle those with the least amount of cost to our budget and to the taxpayers. But yes, it is another bite at the apple, so to speak, and another way for a company to generate revenue on their end, not on ours.
Yeah. And another question somebody asked about, if their valuation went up $10,000, how much more in taxes will I owe? I know it varies slightly based on the school district you're in, but you had a good estimate there.
Right, about $2.89 estimate is what we use, or you can just use the $3 estimate. And using the $2.89, you're about $289 more what you pay. And if you've got a cap, you know, does it worth you coming in to file a protest when that's all you're going to pay? Because even if you get your value adjusted, it may not be that much that you would actually see that savings. So everybody, you really need to look at it. So, and again, tax rates, what I'm using is an estimated tax rate from last year. Tax rates will be set as we get into August and September.
Wonderful.
That's all I
Well,
saw. Did you?
yeah, I think that was everything. I think that's the end of our questions. We want to thank Evelyn Dyson Lee with the IRS, who's helped us several times on several town halls as well. And so we're always happy to have her join us. Ms. Grace Torres, who is here in El Paso, but always a help to our community and to those who need with their local taxpayer advocate office through the IRS and to help in those areas. So thank you for your information. The document she referenced will be up on our website at escobar.house.gov as well. And then we will, and we also want to thank Ms. Dinah Kilgore from the El Paso Central Appraisal District for her information. And remember that they're open too, so you can go in person or give them a call if you need anything. Always want, and of course want to thank MJ Calixto. She's usually the voice behind the phone for our office, but on camera today, sharing about our casework and how we can support our constituents here in Texas 16. Les mando saludos from the Congresswoman who couldn't be with us today, but very happy to serve our community and to share this information from our office. Thanks to our team and of course to our translator, Ana Nunez, for her interpretation in Spanish, and this will also be recorded in Spanish on our website too for availability. So thank you so much. Have a great day, and reach out to our office at 915-541-1400 if you have any remaining questions. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you for having us.